G'day viewers, in this episode I'm going to walk you through the derivation of Bob Lazar's gravity A wave claim. For those viewers whom do not know about Lazar's gravity A wave claim, please watch all of our episodes on our Bob Lazar playlist. To cut a long story short, Lazar claims that the gravity A wave emanating from the element 115 atom can be manipulated like microwaves through the appropriate tuning setup. You mightn't think so, but this is a very powerful statement made by Bob Lazar. Let me explain why. Microwaves occupy a certain frequency range within the electromagnetic spectrum, coupled to their wavelength. If the tuning setup was established at a different geometric scale, completely, say, nano-sized, it would not have looked the way it did. It would not have been identified by Lazar as appearing to be microwave-like technology. Conversely, if the tuning setup was on the scale of a battleship, once again, it would not have looked the way it did and would not have appeared to be microwave-like technology. The fact that the tuning setup looked just like microwaves means that whatever is happening inside is occurring within the microwave frequency range, that is, on the microwave wavelength scale. Therefore, by inference, we shall define Bob Lazar's second major scientific claim as being the gravity A wave occupies the microwave frequency range. At this juncture, I should point out that Bob takes the position that two forms of gravity exists. Gravity A, which operates at the atomic scale, and gravity B, which operates at the planetary scale. I disagree with this position. In my opinion, there is only one form of gravity, not two. In fact, I will prove this to you in this video. By utilising a mathematical technique developed by Joseph Fourier over 200 years ago, I will prove to you that a single equation can be utilised to describe gravitational acceleration at the atomic scale and at the planetary scale. Since we only need one equation to predict what happens at both scales, this proves that only one form of gravity exists, not two. If there were two forms of gravity, we'd need two equations. This doesn't mean that Bob Lazar lied, it simply means he made a mistake because nobody had shown him the mathematical solution. So, in this episode we're going to validate Bob Lazar's second scientific claim. That is, we're going to show you that the so-called gravity A wave emanating from the element 115 atom does so within the microwave frequency range. We're going to do this utilising the same equation which generates Bob Lazar's gravity B wave frequency claim. At this stage, if you haven't already watched episode 50, please do it before proceeding. Okay, now that everybody's up to speed, let's jump into it. Appearing on screen is the complete solution for the amplitude and frequency spectra relating to the quantum vacuum we derived in episodes 1 to 4. If you have the interest and skills, we encourage all viewers to watch these episodes if you want to understand the nuts and bolts of the governing physics. What you're seeing now are the equations relevant to the gravity A and B phenomena described by Bob Lazar. My apologies for the information overload, but don't worry, this entire frame can be dramatically simplified as we'll see on the next slide. One of the objectives achieved by presenting this information to you is to show you that the pathway to the solution is quite complex, so it is inconceivable that Bob Lazar could have done what we've done in order to obtain his gravity B wave frequency, as discussed in our previous episode. It is also inconceivable to believe that Lazar could have simply randomly guessed his 7.46 Hz gravity B wave frequency value. Okay, now let's look at the simplified version of this slide. In the previous episode, we derived Lazar's gravity B wave frequency value. We showed that our theoretical value matched the Lazar value to greater than 99.64% similarity. Now, by utilising a simplified form of the equations shown on the previous slide, we derive the Lazar gravity A wave frequency value to be 11.44 GHz. You should be able to see that the gravity A and gravity B frequency solutions are built from the same equation. Thus, this demonstrates that only one form of gravity exists, not two as claimed by Bob Lazar. A key difference between the gravity A and gravity B wave frequency solutions is that in the case of the gravity A wave, we utilise the fundamental harmonic, that is, NPV equals 1, whilst the gravity B wave, we utilise a value of NPV equals 415, that is, the Lazar harmonic. However, we must stress that the same equation is at the core of both frequency solutions. You should be able to see this if you flip between this slide and the previous one. I will point out that in the case of the gravity B-wave solution, a factor of 1/2 appears in the equation. This occurs because the gravity B-wave is generated by adding harmonics together. Thus, the Lazar frequency is equal to half the frequency value associated with the Lazar harmonic value of 415. If this confuses you, watch all the videos in our Bob Lazar playlist, or reach out to me and I'll explain it to you in a bit more detail. You can also see from our fundamental wavelength results that the longest wavelength in the element 115 quantum vacuum spectrum is 26.2 millimeters. This very obviously and very clearly means that the element 115 gravity A wave effect extends well beyond the radius of the nucleus of the element 115 atom, just as Lazar hypothesized. This is the reason why the space aliens are able to grab the wave and amplify it, just like microwaves, as Lazar claims. In the bottom right hand side of the frame, we have included our estimates for the radius and mass of the element 115 atom. You can find the derivation of these values in our Bob Lazar playlist. I've excluded their derivation from this video presentation for the sake of brevity and simplicity. However, we encourage all viewers to watch our Bob Lazar playlist to learn how it was done. If you still have questions after watching the recommended videos, please reach out to me personally. Lastly, for any particle physicists watching this video, for your erotic pleasure, I've included the quantum vacuum cutoff frequency for the element 115 atom in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. As you can see, it is simply the square of the proton Compton frequency divided by the electron Compton frequency. Given that there is no way to verify our 11.44 GHz prediction, how much can we trust the equation which produced it? Well, let's look at the bigger picture. For viewers familiar with my previous episodes, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of credibility. When I had previously scorned credibility, I was referring to personal and professional credibility. For example, I was referring to so-called whistleblowers whom have nothing to offer other than their word, or at most, they offer highly dubious video evidence which doesn't prove anything. I was not referring to scientific credibility. Scientific credibility is a different animal completely. Scientific credibility refers to experimentally verified results. Any researcher who makes predictions which are later experimentally verified, and most importantly, are reproducible results, sits in an entirely different bucket. So scientific credibility does actually have value. Our entire scientific analysis of the Lazar claims is based upon one single equation derived from a process spanning episode 1 to episode 5. So, can we trust this equation? Yes is the short answer, and here's why. In this illustration, we see that our primary equation, which was derived in episode 1 to episode 5, yields astonishing experimentally verified results. We have confirmed that a single equation can be utilised to describe reality from the quantum scale to the cosmological scale and everything in between. Everything on screen is significant and jumps substantially ahead of the standard models of particle physics and cosmology, but perhaps most notably, the Staudy 2008 power spectrum Hubble constant was predicted 5 years in advance of experimental validation. This is historically verifiable fact, and we suggest that you follow the links shown in order to verify it for yourselves. Now that we have established the scientific credibility of the Staudy equation, let's look at what it means for the Lazar gravity A and B frequency claims. Now, let's overlay the Lazar solution. Clearly, we see that the Lazar solution is in impressive company. On this basis, it would be remiss to flippantly dismiss Lazar's claims of microwave frequency range and a gravity B-wave frequency value of 7.46 Hz. Let's put it in context. You can see 6 instances whereby the Staudy equation has been experimentally verified, most impressively with respect to the power spectrum Hubble constant being predicted and published 5 years in advance of experimental verification. This is a non-trivial event. The fact that it is unknown within the scientific community is an issue for the community, not for the solution published by the Australian Institute of Physics. Okay, let's now summarise what we've learned. From the previous episode, we validated Bob Lazar's gravity B-wave frequency claim of 7.46 Hz. In this episode, we have validated Lazar's gravity A-wave claim of microwave frequency range. In fact, we predict that the gravity A-wave amplifiers
operate at a frequency of 11.44 GHz. This fits neatly into the microwave frequency range of 300 MHz to 300 GHz. Therefore, we may conclude that the apparatus' operational behaviour involved gravity A-wave amplifiers generating a continuous 11.44 GHz signal, which was burst released towards the Earth at a frequency of 7.46 Hz. In other words, an amplified and continuous 11.44 GHz gravity A-wave signal was pulsed towards the centre of mass of the Earth every 0.134 seconds. Well, thanks for watching this video presentation. I hope I've got you thinking differently about Bob Lazar's story. So far, we've been able to validate 2 of the 3 scientific claims made by Bob Lazar. In the next episode, we'll show you how Lazar's 3rd claim can be explained scientifically.